Hi everybody, today we'll be doing maths in Python. But before we get started, let me review how you can solve the questions from the last episode. So, to solve the question in the last episode, we have this problem where we have to build an app that completes the following criteria. So, in order to solve this, we have three variables that we are given. So, we have the item, the price, and the quantity. We have to output the following. So, to output the following, what we can do is we can simply copy this right here. This is our thing that we need for this episode. So now we have this. We need three variables. So it's item equals and then something. Price is, of course, we are given a float. So we must put in a float. And then quantity. Quantity is in integers. So any numbers. So let's say we have an item of banana and each of them costs exactly $2.99 and we bought 5 of them. So in order to do this, we can simply use the two methods that I've given it to you. We can use the f string, which is just us putting f in front of here, and then what we can do is put the brackets and put in item is price I bought quantity. Now, I do forget to tell you one thing from last episode. There is a third type of putting variables into print, which is basically using format. So to do this, what we can do is we can simply delete everything inside the brackets, and including the f string. We should be left this. Now, what we have to do is type in dot format, and according to any of these brackets, we can safely put in the item, price, and quantity respectively. So for example, item, price, quantity. So what if we save this and we try to run it? Well, we're going to be given this. See, they are both the same. So this is how you solve the thing from the last episode. So on to today's episode. Today we're going to learn about math. So to get started, we know all of these basic operators, except I will explain why there are the percentage mark here. So to get started, let's start with all these basic functions. So with this newly created file, let's say we want to add stuffs in. This is the first operator, addition. But before that, let me just declare two variables called a and b. Each of them will be integers. So let's say a is 5. B is 2. Alright, so to do addition, we can simply just do A plus B to get the answer. So let me declare C as the sum of A and B. Then we can simply print it out. So if we try to do this, 5 plus 2 should yield 7. That is correct. So then let's do subtraction. This is the second way to do this. So we can declare C again as A minus B. Then we can print C. So if we try to run this, we will get 7 and 3, which is correct because A is 5 and B is 2. Alright, now let's go to the third one, which is multiplication. To do this, we have to use the special character called the asterisk. A asterisk B. If you are familiar with the calculator app in your computer, you should know that when you're trying to calculate anything, for example, if you want to add, what you have to do is the plus sign, subtract is minus sign, and you should automatically know that to multiply A by B, we can use the thing called asterisk. So let's print this out. So, alright. So what do we get? 5 times 2 should give us 10, and that is correct. Now for the fourth operator, we are given division. Yes. So to divide, which is gonna be A slash B. This is division. So if we try to print this out, if we divide 5 by 2, we should get around 2 point something something. We should get 2.5. Yes, sir. So this is correct. So now you may be asking, why we already did all of this? Why is there a percentage mark? Well, to put it simply, this is a thing called modulo. A modulo returns the remainder of any division. So for example, if we let A percent B, this means that A divided by B should be 2.5. But in this case, it returns the remainder as. So if we divide 5 by 2, we get 1, 2, we get 2, and then we get remainder of 1. So if you try to print this, we'll get 1, as you see. So these are the basics of maths. So we already know of these, right? Now, the next thing we have to know is, how about if we want to do something more crazy? Well, that's when a thing called the library called math comes in. So if you go to this link in the description, you should get to this page. This page basically shows everything about the math function that you'll need for this tutorial. You will not need all of it, but you'll need, well, probably mostly just constants for this episode. So to use this, we have to use a thing called the import. So import is basically just you type in import a library. So in this case, we are trying to import a math to our code. So what we do is import math. Any other things that you may not see yet is gonna be in the math module, or we call it library. I just like to call it module. Alright, so let's get to this. So we have math here. What math does is basically it gives us a lot, and I mean a lot of things. So for example, we want to get a pi. So with the math documentation, it should tell us how to get pi. So if we go to constants, here we're trying to get pi. So pi is a keyword in math. So what we can do, we can also click here. It should redirect us to here. This outputs 3.141592.6. So we can safely copy this, math.pi. So if we try to print out pi, let me get rid of all of that first. If we try to print out pi, this is what we're gonna get. We're gonna get so many numbers. The reason why we lose precision here, as you can see, it's correct up until probably this much or around this much, because after that it exceeds the amount of integer, or what I call a bits that an integer can receive. But that is not for this tutorial. I'll explain that in the later episodes. So as I was saying, in the math library, we can import a lot of things, and I mean a lot of things here. Like for example, we can also import the e. We can also import tau. We can also import infinity and the nan, what you call not a number. Anyways, those are only constants. So we also have other functions. So let me show you how to use any of these. For example, if we're trying to do angular conversion, so let's convert 100 degrees into radians. So to do that, let's say we have angle equals 270. Let's do that. If we want to convert it, we can basically do radians. I'm making a variable called radians. You can make it anything. You can make it math, whatever you want. So how we do this is radians equal math.radians, and then we put in the angle. So if we try to print out the radians, let me be a bit less sensitive to this. Let's print out rad. We should get 270 is 3/4. No, it's, I already forgot what it is. So okay, let's see. You should get number. Well, normally you get number because you already know that radians are basically just pi's and stuff like that. But if you try 180, you should basically get the same as pi. So here, they're the same. Yep. So if I try to do let's do angle equals math.tau. This should give us let me do degree just to compare. Alright, so if you run this, you should get 360 degrees. That's correct. Alright, so that's the basic usage of math. Okay, so let's say we want to know a value. So if we are given numbers a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals, no, actually let's do it more repetitive, 5, 12, 14. Alright, so there are two functions here that you want to know, which is min and max. Alright, so for min, this is what you use to find the least value in the data you got. So let's say we have 1, 5, 12, and 14. I've prepared like this. So in case, let's do it. So min should get you a, b, c, and d. These are the, let's say these are minimum values, and max should give you the maximum value within all of these. So a, b, c, and d. So let's print out the min and print out the max. There we go. Okay, let me actually do this first. As you can see here, you got minimum value as a because it is the least, and the maximum value here we got is d which is 14. But what if we want to get the greatest common factor? Or, well, the better part, what if we want to round them? We can do that. So let's say e equals 42.5. All right, let's do like this. So let's round e to nearest. I'm gonna make this as a variable. All right, so to nearest equals. Let's round e by how much should we round it? Let's do 2 digits, 2 decimal places. So if we do 2 nearest here, this should give us 42.53. All right, okay, let's do it. There we go. You can play around with this. You can do 3 digit. So it should be 42.526. There we go. All right. So you have now learned how to use min and max and round. So my challenge for you today is I want you to build a cashier register with these following variables. We want an item name variable, basically a string of anything. So let's say banana quantity is an integer. This is basically closely related to this exercise from last time. You also want a price per unit. So if an item costs $5, then the price per unit is $5. But if all of them, let's say 10 of them, if all of them cost 200, then each of them costs $20. So $20 is going to be the price per unit or PPU. So now we have money. Money is how much we are given in an integer. So let's say we gave them $100 for an item for 10 items that cost around $50. So you should get in return how many dollars. So the output should be like this. Cashier register, we have item. Item is item name. So let's say item banana. Quantity should be how much you have. And price per unit is PPU. So money given here is however much you gave them. And the change is, well, you want to calculate the difference between the prices with the money. So let's say we gave them 5 items, each of them costing $12. So if we did quick calculation, that will give us $60. And we give them $100 as a money for them to give us a change back. So what we do here for the change is 100 minus 60. So the change should return 40. All right, and this is all the lesson we have for today. The next episode, as always, I will tell you how to solve this. Peace.